Hello and welcome to another Eurogamer Next-Gen Newscast. This is number 8, I think, and it is the 3rd of December already somehow. I'm joined once again by Eurogamer news editor Tom Phillips. How's that cough, Tom? Thank you for that.
It's just a thing of 2020.
And Eurogamer reporter Emma Kent. How's it going?
Hello.
Right, obviously tons to get stuck into as always when it comes to next-gen consoles, but as is the Eurogamer newscast tradition, we do the what have you been playing bit at the beginning. Emma,
I've been playing.
please tell me you have stopped playing Assassin's Creed and you have something new to report, please. Oh my God.
Still playing Assassin's Creed. It takes a long time, Wes. These games are long. Yeah, I think I've played like 100+ hours now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's getting there.
I guess you like it then.
I mean, yeah, it's really kind of like I really feel really conflicted about it because there's a lot I really like in the stories and the kind of little the way it's structured is that you go around and you like conquer counties and things like that. And I really love the little stories you get from that. But I reached the end last night, or one of the ends. No spoilers, but I think as someone who's just started Assassin's Creed with Valhalla, it's incredibly confusing to just come into that now and be like, okay, I think there's a lot of stuff I should have known about from previous games and I don't know what's happening. Yeah, and the ending didn't work for me really, but I still enjoyed all the lead up to that. So for me, it's like I was a bit disappointed at the end, but it was worth it overall.
I think if you put 100 hours into a video game, there must be something good about it, right?
Yeah, no.
Or something very wrong with you.
Yeah. I feel like one of those Steam reviews that's like someone's played like 4,000 hours and it's like, oh, this sucks. Hate this game. Rubbish.
Yeah, or just say I wouldn't bother.
Yeah, no, it's still worth it.
No, I'm glad. Tom, are you also knee deep in Assassin's Creed mud?
No, for the first time, I've not been playing it the last few days. There's just been a lot of other stuff going on. This week, there was the big Fortnite Marvel finale, which was a lot of fun.
Well, actually, so you were there for the event, right? I assume you were, knowing you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what happened?
Well, it was an appropriately cinematic and dramatic end to the storyline that's been playing out the whole season, which is that Galactus, this Marvel baddie, has been coming to gobble up the island, and all of the superheroes that have been in the battle pass this season joined forces to stop him in this insanely elaborate live event. It actually wasn't my favorite live event, and I think that plays into some of it's not my favorite season ever. I prefer my Fortnite when it's not entirely themed around something else. This is the first time I've done this. I don't think it's going to be like a too regular thing, but like you just have to admire the fact that they put this thing together and you just experience this sort of 10-15 minute unique thing that's never going to happen again and has just been so well put together. You just, at the end of it, it's like, wow, I can't believe that this game, which once upon a time was just a battle royale game, can pull off things like this at such scale with such elaborate gameplay that it just gets introduced. And yeah, it's incredible. The production values and the work that goes into it and the scale that it's put on at is just, they're always must-see events, those Fortnite live events, and they did not disappoint this week.
Did you have any problems getting into it? Because I gather they've had issues with that in the past.
No, none at all. It seems like technically the event went really smoothly. They had they capped at 12.3 million for the previous live event. This one they had 15.3, I think, something like that. It was over 15. I didn't see any
15 million people playing Fortnite all at the same time.
It's insane, and that's not counting people watching on Twitch and YouTube. And I didn't see any big reports of issues. I think they actually purposefully scheduled it at a time in the middle of the day US time when fewer people would be on. The last event, I think, struggled because it was on a weekend during the time that a lot more of the world was in lockdown than perhaps is currently. And they really struggled. The servers really struggled. And this time around, they managed to fit several million more people in and not have any issues at all. So yeah, it's just incredible stuff.
I mean, they have all the money in the world, right? So let's remember the context here. They have a lot of resources, but it's still impressive, especially in a pandemic lockdown situation, to be able to make it all happen. I kind of feel like the Marvel stuff doesn't interest me at all. Like, I'm a fan of Marvel, but I just don't care about the Marvel stuff. I'm much more interested. I was more interested in that black hole thing they did last year, where it was I remember like sort of marveling at how you were talking about it in the office. Remember those? And that wasn't really Marvel sort of led. I can't remember if there was a Marvel crossover at that point, but
no. I mean, they have guest characters this season. You can play as Mando for various reasons.
Isn't Baby Yoda in it now?
Yeah.
As what, like a pet that you can bring in?
He floats around in his egg thing and follows you about.
Is that a premium thing that you can just pay
get it
money
in the
for?
battle pass?
So you have to buy the battle pass to get it, right?
Does Baby Yoda help you build? Does he like?
He just.
Does he
you don't want to shoot me.
Does he eat any unborn babies? The monster.
Spoilers.
Please. That was 5 weeks ago.
Yeah. I agree with you, Wes. I think that Fortnite is at its best when it's telling its own story, and it was really refreshing to see the cliffhanger at the end of the Marvel event resolve in the opening of this new season, and it's probably the most original story that Fortnite's had.
Right, so no more Marvel's done. Marvel's done?
Yeah.
Oh,
it was quite interesting. Good. There was a moment in the live event where Iron Man turns to the camera and he's like, I guess we're all off then. It's been fun. We're all going now. Goodbye. And I think that was probably a knowing, don't worry, all of this is going. That's all going out of the way. And then it really does neatly dovetail into the wider story of Fortnite and all of the fun stuff. As someone who really likes Fortnite's lore and story, seeing the trailer that came up for the next season the following day and the characters that were in it and the references that were in it, it's like, okay, I think they know that Fortnite needs to sort of get back to being Fortnite for a bit.
Right. So is the fish head beefcake dude in charge, or is it the banana with impossible limbs in charge?
There's a great Easter egg where if you go, so the only Mando, because he's in the battle pass, his ship is parked on the map, so you can go see his ship. It's a nice Easter egg. If you go into the ship, Peely, the banana man, is frozen in carbonite in the back.
Oh, that's good.
Nice. But is the banana skin his suit or his skin, Tom? Is he wearing a banana? Is he wearing a banana suit?
No, he is a banana, and I do actually own a summer banana where he wears clothes, and he unpeels himself to get a tan. This is a very strange conversation. I never thought I'd be having. What an odd day.
What are you playing Fortnite on these days, out of interest?
Series X. Yeah,
right.
It looks fantastic.
Yeah, well, to bring it back to next gen, are you ray tracing it up the wazoo? Is everything reflecting off of everything, and are you shooting in puddles and stuff?
It really, really looks incredible, which, I mean, on the one hand, it's not surprising, right? It's made by a company that builds one of the most used video game engines in the world, and you would expect their biggest game, one of the biggest games in the world, to make the most use of that possible to really show it off. And it does. It just looks so pretty, especially at certain times of day, especially when there's weather effects on the island. And but also I think this is also a really important reason why they do it. It's because it makes the skins, the characters that you wear, all of the cosmetics in the game look incredible as well. And I am sure that more people, if they are playing Fortnite on a high-end PC or a next-gen console, PS5, Series X, you're gonna see how good some of these skins look on the new platform, and you're probably gonna be more convinced to buy them. And I'm sure that's another reason why Epic want it looking absolutely tip top, because that's how the game makes its money.
Yeah, I can't begin to imagine. Like in my head, they've got this like room which is like a Bond villain's lair, and there's a big screen, and it shows the money coming in literally in real time. And I can't imagine what that looks like when they launch a new season with a new battle pass, and it's got Baby Yoda in it. Like it just must be like just crazy numbers. Which is good because Tim Sweeney is suing everyone, and he'll need it. So in Next Gen News this week, we have quite a lot to run through. I wanted to start with catching up with you, Tom, about the latest with Amazon, because I think you're doing a fantastic job keeping on top of how the launch of these consoles has gone in terms of like retail, like actually getting one, what that experience is like, all the terrible things that have happened.
It's gone badly.
I mean, it's just been a disaster, I think. And even just today, the day we're recording, you know, on Twitter, Argos is trending because they just decided to sell new PS5s without telling anyone at the crack of dawn, and everyone's really
3
upset.
a.m. I think, right?
3 a.m. Yeah. When we're all up F5ing Argos anyway, so what have we got to complain about? And so everyone's like, oh, the scalpers have just ruined it again. And then just PS5 stock UK is a term that just trends eternally at the moment because everyone's so desperate to get one of these things. But one interesting follow-up, tell us, Tom, with Amazon, who had promised to make it right. And there's maybe some sort of suggestion that they are trying to do something, I guess, we didn't expect.
Yeah, I think Amazon were very cautious when they said we'll make it right without going into any firm details on how they would actually do that. And there isn't a way on Amazon's website that any of us have ever seen where you can, pre-register interest in a product that has yet to come back into stock. That functionality just doesn't exist. So whether they would live up to what they said, which was, we'll see if there's any way to prioritize you for the next wave of consoles when they come in, whether that was actually going to happen or not, who really knew. But it did happen for some people. Yesterday, Wednesday, I think it was, we reported that emails have gone out to a bunch of the people who were affected by missing, presumed stolen consoles last time around. That included some of the people that I've been speaking to a lot over the last couple of weeks. It also included Anthony and from Push Square. He and others managed to get new console orders in, and they are on their way. And a few people have said, I'm going to sit on my front porch and absolutely make sure when the van turns up that the van doesn't continue driving past.
With an air rifle.
Going to jump in front of it.
You've got to hold them up. You got to keep your gun trained on them.
Put the PlayStation 5 down. That's it. Now step away.
Slowly step away. Oh my God, what have we become? This is the true apocalypse.
Just bartering over PlayStation boxes. But this offer hasn't gone out to everybody, which suggests that they had only a limited number that they were going to do this to. Yeah. And that's a shame. And like the majority of people that I've been speaking to, it has come through for, but it hasn't come through for 100%. And I think that's an important point to make. And also you're experiencing, without wanting to like overly disparage customer support, which my heart goes out to anyone who does that. And that is, I think, probably a very challenging job, but you can only pass on the information that you've been informed about. And it does not seem like Amazon customer support was aware that this was happening 100% of the time either. So it's been patchy, but there has been some good news for some people.
God, the PS5, as soon as they come into the country, they're bought. There's almost like it's an instantaneous sold out. Yeah, it's like they're just teleported into someone's like online basket for a website or something.
They've teleported into CX probably.
Well, we'll get to that, but yeah, it's crazy really just how popular this machine is, and I don't think the Xbox Series X is quite as in demand as the PS5, but it's not far off. You still see it sold out relatively quickly, so it's just crazy times. Speaking of crazy times, Emma, a delicious story you wrote this week about scalpers who had some orders cancelled of Xbox Series X, 1,000 Xbox Series X orders that were cancelled by the retailers. Tell us exactly what this story is about and what has actually happened.
Yeah, so this concerns the scalping group that's kind of been hitting the headlines a fair bit recently because they've been kind of carrying out coordinated efforts to scoop up a bunch of consoles.
This is the group you can pay money to, right? You
exactly.
Can pay money to them.
Their business model is a bit odd because it's not just straight scalping. It's like you subscribe to learn how to scalp and get the information so that you can then do it yourself. And yeah, they've been obviously like really boastful because they want people to subscribe to this and feel like you can make money off it. And they, on all their social media channels, they've been like, oh, we've got this many thousand consoles and we've made, like, they were claiming that they'd made like $1 million, I think, in profit on that and like shoes, I think, since they'd started it. Anyway, so they started boasting earlier this week that they'd managed to secure 1,000 Xbox Series X orders from like a very well-known British retailer. And,
a very well-known British retailer.
Yeah, exactly. And we later figured out this was Very, because Sky News did a report which said that Very had actually cancelled all of these orders, and the scalper group did not in fact have those 1,000 consoles that it had been bragging about to its members, trying to get them to subscribe for the information. So it's quite funny. Like Very said that the console order itself was a result of like a technical error. So it might have been that they didn't have that many consoles in the first place, or that there are limits on how many people could like order a console, because normally it's like limited to one per address. That the scalping group managed to get around that, and we know that they reportedly kind of like use a bot system to scan all these websites and then fill in mass orders when they can. So we think that they managed to find some kind of way to that link. Anyway, even if the consoles weren't there or didn't exist, it's quite funny that that group was bragging about it and trying to use it as a way to get people to sign up for its service. And I'm assuming that anyone who did actually try to scalp that through that link has now got their money tied up and is having to get a refund, and has probably sunk a fair bit of money in for nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a battle that the scalpers have obviously lost this time, but let's make no mistake, they're winning the war. Like if you look at eBay right now and search just for PS5, I've been looking at it lately for a story I've been working on. Oh my god, it's a shit show. It's completely like, if you're not into games like we are, if you're just like a casual, oh, I want a PS5 for my kid or something for Christmas or something, then that site is an absolute minefield. And I see people, like, I did a story this week where eBay, which typically doesn't do this, issued a statement warning people that not to falsely advertise PS5s on eBay. People have been listing photos of a PS5, and it says PS5 photo, but and then right in the bottom in the description it says this is a photo of the PS5. So they're technically not breaking any rules, but they're just being like awful people, right? And
I think I saw one selling like a wish for a PS5 or something.
Right, so
origami paper.
it's right. It's beyond that. Like, there was one. There's a empty cardboard box, and the description is literally, "This is how empty I feel because I don't have a PS5. Please bid
Or
so
just
I
a
can
photo
afford
of a
one."
PS5 that looks like you're buying one, and it's
Yeah,
not.
it's really misleading. And then there's a lot of like pictures of handwritten notes, which is like, "I have no money and I want to get my kid a PS5 for Christmas. Please give me some money." And I'm a parent. I would never do that. I would never do a listing on eBay trying to raise money to buy something for my kid. Right? And so I don't believe it. So I'm just like, this is obviously bollocks. And what's happened? So eBay issued a warning saying they're going to take action again. They're taking these down, take action against these accounts. And I did follow up with eBay to say, it's still happening. Like, it's not really changed. And they came back and they were like, just so you know, there are 1.3 billion listings on eBay at any given time. So it's an ongoing process. And basically, they're just saying people need to keep an eye out for what they're actually buying and make sure they read the listing. So I appreciate it's difficult from eBay's point of view to keep on top of this, but they could have a warning that comes up on the site when you type in PS5, like that's at the top of the site or something. Just say, make sure that you're checking. They don't have that. I don't see why they couldn't do that. And then what's another development is I've seen some warning listings. So people are fighting back. They're like putting listings, which is like, "Don't fall for the scam," like big like pictures of like notes they've written, like signs they're holding up. So like, you put PS5 into eBay and it's just a complete mess. Like, say you had like $1,000 and you're like, "All right, I'm going to buy a PS5. I'm rich and I'm desperate." Like, I don't even know, like you'd have to discount so much just to get to what even if you actually wanted to buy one from the scalper. It's just crazy situation at the moment. And I remember, like, these aren't new issues, but it feels really bad this time around. Like, I think the PS5 is just shocking situation, trying to get one really bad. And then there was a where is it? Yeah, so eBay and Amazon, and Game as well. So Game, like, as sort of was in the headlines because at the launch, I remember there were the obvious issues, but Game is sort of quietly sort of trying to get on top of this, and it's still having issues. And Game, let's remember, is one of only 2 authorized shops in the UK, along with Smiths, which is something, and this is something you've reported on, Emma, in the past, that does the Xbox, like all access, I think it is.
Stuff, yeah.
Klarna stuff. And this is all throwing up all sorts of problems as well, and we never had this situation before. With the last gen launch, you couldn't do this. So there's so much going on with the launch of these consoles, which is good for us, gives us a lot to talk about. So in more sort of like expected news, I guess, we have the first meaningful update for the Xbox Series X and S. We've had a couple for the PS5, but they've kind of been, patch notes have been really, really bad. They've just sort
stability improvement.
Stability, and nobody knows what that means. But this, like, Xbox is doing it better now. Emma, you wrote this story, didn't you?
Yeah.
What's in the actual update?
Oh gosh, got to try and remember that list. Well, first it was like dynamic backgrounds. So I think there are 6 more of those. And that's obviously next-gen exclusive feature. And they just kind of shimmer away in the background, looking nice on your dashboard. And there are various like UI improvements, like there are tags now to let you know in your library like which games are optimized for Series X and S, which is good. Yeah, so if you're like, "Oh, I want to test out the capabilities," you just bang that on, and you've got a list of things, and you just know, yeah, what's going to be the updated version. What else was there? There was other stuff that it was about like 5 or 6 things.
Have you? So I assume you're both using Xboxes, right? You're using an S to play Assassins. Tom, you're using your X for Fortnite Assassins. Have you noticed any meaningful differences with this update, or is it just sort of like pretty standard stuff?
I'm in the posh alpha ring, so I've had a few of these things for a little while. It's just like an internal testing thing. People can sign up for this; it's public. It's nice, yeah. If you've got an HDR TV, there's now a tag for that, and the dynamic backgrounds are cool, I suppose.
Oh,
I
the
always
Game Pass thing is new as well. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you can now like preload games that are coming to Xbox Game Pass before they actually become available.
Oh,
which is useful if it's
that's
something
really
like
good.
You know, like when The Witcher 3 came on Game Pass and it's like I want to play it from day one, then you can just set it going. Apparently, it won't come for all games, but I imagine that'll be depending if like maybe if a game is releasing on Game Pass, like they won't let you do that or something like that. But
that's really, really good, actually.
Microsoft just needs the games to put on it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of games on Xbox that you can't get anywhere else, Tom, you wrote this week that people are using the Series X and S to emulate PS2 games, which is something that the PS5 cannot do, which is obviously hilarious and not a great look for Sony. But exactly how are people doing this then?
I mean, the Xbox is essentially just a bit of a PC in a box and has been for a while. It's been able to run UWP programs, Universal Windows programs, which is the file thing that Microsoft uses on Windows 10 and up. And if you have applications that run in UWP, you can run them on Xbox in the console's developer mode. And those programs can also include emulation software, and therefore you can run emulated games, which people have been doing for a while, but now you can do it on an Xbox. And the funny side of it is obviously that PlayStation does not have a native way to play PS2 games through back compat. Obviously, PlayStation 5 is technically powerful enough to play these games, to emulate them, but it doesn't have a way to do that.
But now Microsoft has some exclusives, so now now who needs Halo when you've got Silent Hill 2? I mean, it's not something I imagine a lot of people are going to be doing on their Xboxes, but it did make for a fun headlines this week. And sticking with headlines relating to Xbox, Tom, you wrote a story this week about 343, which sounds a little cross about a Halo Infinite rumor. To describe the Halo Infinite rumor, essentially, it is that it's going to get a battle royale. There's other things that are a part of that rumor, but I think that's the thing that is sort of getting all the attention. And their developers have sort of, taken the step of saying, of commenting on this. So exactly what have they said?
This is an interesting one because all of this talk of battle royale. I mean, people have been wondering because we've heard so little about Halo Infinite, let alone its multiplayer modes. We've not seen anything. What it might contain, and the idea that it might contain battle royale, it's not too far flung. It's been flying around for a while, and actually last year Frank O'Connor said it's not in the game right now. We're not making it right now. Who knows about the future? Which was pretty clear cut at the time. Then about a month ago, a random Reddit account just put a bunch of speculation online on Reddit about plans for Halo Infinite over the next decade. And for some reason, this was picked up again more recently on Twitter. And for some reason, it was then picked up by a lot of websites and a lot of discussion. And so clearly, is it Brian Jarrett, the 343 community guy? It looks like logged on to twitter.com late the other night. I think it was like Monday evening or Tuesday morning. He was just getting his Thanksgiving turkey, and his tweet just to me reads like like this is what I have to deal with. Like
Not one day of rest.
This game is delayed. They are struggling with the campaign. They are struggling with the multiplayer, and now there are like expectations and actually a bunch of people quite excited for a battle royale that may or may not exist.
Well, it's
and
interesting.
It's just such, and so he was pretty. To my mind, he was pretty blunt when he said the rumors were unfounded, which if you look in the dictionary means that they have no basis, right?
Yeah,
So that's,
I can totally see there being a Halo battle royale, like, and also what's wrong with that?
There's
Like,
nothing wrong with that.
Some people are reacting badly to the idea.
Yeah, I think a lot of people consider it like a kind of a commercial move in the way it's like, oh, they're just doing a Fortnite. They just want to have a Fortnite mode, basically.
Are we past that now? I feel like we should be past that now.
Well, I don't think some people are, though, just looking at the way Twitter reactions go. A lot of people are just fed up with Battle Royale as a genre, like grumpy people. Other people obviously aren't, because the Battle Royales are still doing well, but a lot of people do have a grumble about it whenever they see one pop up. And then you just know that a few months later they'll be playing it along with everyone else, like having fun. But
well, so I think it feels like that's not the conversation we should be having.
Yeah, regardless.
The thing on Twitter was you had people who were saying, Battle Royale, there's really no problem with it. It's going to be a mode in the game. To be honest, it's probably going to. I personally believe that at some point Halo Infinite will get a Battle Royale mode because this game is going to be out for a long time. It seems like a smart idea to do. Frank O'Connor last year said it probably, like a very simple Battle Royale you could mock up in the Forge mode very quickly. But it's just a distraction. This rumor, this unfounded rumor, is just a distraction. And you have people saying, oh, Halo's ruined. Microsoft have put in a Battle Royale. You have people saying, oh, Battle Royale, I'm really looking forward to that. And if you're not making a Battle Royale right now, that's noise. And it's just distracting. And I think Brian Jarrett coming back to work after eating his turkey was just, I think that tweet to me reads like he had his head in his hands a bit, because this is just not what they want to talk about right now. They have said, we're not going to be at Game Awards because we didn't expect to be at Game Awards. We don't have a build of the game to show. We don't have a new flashy trailer to show. We are just trying to right the ship right now, and we'll be in touch with a blog post probably before the end of the year. And then next year, we'll start talking again properly about how we're going to launch this really difficult, massive game with sky-high expectations, a troubled development, and core parts of the game that people have, like, we've already seen the campaign, and that has to be re-announced and improved. I think most people agree, right? Unless you want Master Craig, and a multiplayer that no one has seen, and there are various rumors about how that's going to launch. They need to get these core stuff things right, and I think that's the conversation, and that's what they're working on right now, trying to do that. And all this additive stuff, like a Battle Royale mode and conversations for and against, I can understand his frustration seeing no sourced Reddit rumor picked up across the internet this week.
Well, I think he's right when he says, they know that they need to say something, because I think a lot of this is just, there's a gap, there's a vacuum there that's been filled by bollocks, and if they when they start talking about it, this sort of thing will be less likely to prove troublesome. But everything we've heard about this game makes it sound like an absolute nightmare for so many reasons. So everything, like the promotions being like available now, where you can buy products that get XP, because it was all put in motion for the game to be coming out this year, and then there's no game. Like, what an absolute nightmare. Okay, so
and I was going to say, I really feel for the developers, because at this point you were probably looking forward to a relatively quiet Christmas, having shipped an enormous game, and they're not doing that. They're still working. They're back there. They're in their homes working still, and the weight of expectation and pressure from fans has only grown because you've missed the console launch now, and now it really has to be good.
God, the pressure. I can't think of a game under more pressure. Maybe Cyberpunk, but next year, like, pressure on Halo to deliver, immense. So one of the things I wanted us to sort of debate this episode, which I think is really fascinating, has to do with Sony's thinking behind how it's designed the way the PS5 works, and by that I mean the way you actually are using it. I'm everyone's sort of aware of the activities feature of the PS5. The idea is that you can instantly jump into certain parts of a game. It works really well in Spider-Man Miles Morales, where you can jump into like missions, and then the game will load. Miles will just be standing there on a rooftop waiting for you to go, and you like go straight into that mission. And I'm not seeing every game use it. Like you can jump into certain aspects of Call of Duty, but I can't just go straight bang into matchmaking for like Nuketown or whatever. So there are still the way games use it is different, but in principle, it's pretty cool and it's different. And Xbox doesn't have it, so it's a point of difference. Now, what's happened this week is a really interesting article on Vice Games, which obtained confidential documentation that Sony used to talk about basically where it's thinking, like it's working out for this stuff. There's like a presentation with a number of slides. And what I think is really interesting is how they got to the point of creating these activities. And they start the presentation by saying, everyone knows single player is dying. And then they show a list of the top selling PlayStation 4 video games that sort of backs that up. Like Grand Theft Auto 5, obviously for GTA Online, and Black Ops 3 are like massive selling games. And it's because of their multiplayer modes. But then Sony goes on to say that in reality, its internal tracking data shows that single player is thriving, and PlayStation users are regularly spending more time playing offline than online. Now, there's some more to this presentation I want to talk to, but first off, I want to sort of pick your guys' brain about this exactly. Emma, do you think that is actually the reality? Would you get the impression that single player is thriving? Because a lot of people were, and a lot of publishers, I think, were sort of like strategically positioning themselves for single player dying not that long ago.
I mean, yeah, I guess so from that. I guess it tells you how long people spend playing single player games. Might be longer than maybe like dipping into multiplayers for a little bit. I was just saying earlier that like Assassin's Creed Valhalla took me like 120 hours or something like that, versus, I don't know, dipping into Warzone for like an hour or two with friends. It might actually end up being more time in a single player game just because they can take longer for like the big AAA titles and stuff like that. But yeah, I guess it does show that people are obviously still interested in single player games. And I think that's particularly true for PlayStation. It always angles its branding and its exclusives towards that kind of experience. Maybe it's just not as easy to monetize, and that's why we're seeing more of a kind of pivot towards multiplayer, if we can call it that, because obviously you can't sell cosmetics as easily through it. So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. I guess a little bit of roundup.
Yeah, well, I think Sony with first party stuff very is heavily single player. Like Naughty Dog, they've had like multiplayer components, but everyone's buying Uncharted and Last of Us for the single player, right? Insomniac, like Spider-Man games, single player. Sony Santa Monica, God of War, single player. Sony Bend, Days Gone, single player. What am I forgetting? I'm forgetting something, but like they seem to be like heavy into single player. So I'm not surprised by that stat for them, but we see it less with third parties. Like if you look at EA, for example, they're obviously heavily invested in multiplayer. Activision with Call of Duty, a lot of it is multiplayer. So I think it's different for Sony than it is for other companies. What's really interesting about this presentation is they talk about what players say are their problems with single player games. And I want to like talk about this and see if you guys agree with this. So one of the quotes here is, "No idea how long I might need. don't play unless I have 2 + 3 hours. Tom, do you relate to that feeling when it comes to like you're into a single player game? Do you feel like you can only really start it if you know you've got a real big chunk of time to get into it?
No, not really. I would like to always have 2-3 hours spare. I don't always have 2-3 hours spare. The game that kind of fits this for me is Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which, as you know, is one of my favorite games of the last few years, perhaps ever. And a game which Ubisoft has said internally their metrics of that game match their very best multiplayer experiences. And I think what Emma said about that, it's harder for publishers to see a long-term future for single player games after they've been released is very true. And you've got the rise of things like Fortnite at the same time, and back in the day, like DayZ, and then other battle royales and multiplayers coming in and like gobbling up money by the battle pass. But I think that publishers are starting to realize, I think there's like third-party publishers who are starting to like work out how to monetize, it has to be said, but also keep single player games interesting, which is perhaps a more difficult thing to do than just adding a couple more maps and a couple more guns and a couple more levels to a multiplayer game. And first party with Sony, like all of those studios and games that you mentioned, Wes, they may be like 70, 100-hour experiences, and Fortnite might be like 2-3+ years long now, but for first party, those games help sell consoles, and that's really important for them.
Because Ubisoft did a really good job keeping Odyssey going, right? It was to say it was it's a big single player game, but it felt like almost like a live service game without being a live service game to me.
That's how it was run. They did episodic expansions over the like following year of its release, to the point where very ably they filled that year with Assassin's Creed being relevant still, without forcing out a new Assassin's Creed in the interim between Odyssey and Valhalla. And they also, like, as well as those expansions, put out free missions. They put out cosmetics that you could buy, and that, I think, speaks to a publisher very smartly monetizing and keeping engagement high for a single player game that I ended up playing 200-300 hours long. And they're doubling down on that for Valhalla by adding in seasons, which like literally relate to global seasons. So this Christmas, this December, it's going to be like Yuletide, and there'll be new missions and cosmetics and things to do in your settlement and with characters in the game with Viking Christmas, and that will continue through at least 12 months, they've already said.
So it is possible. It is possible.
It's just harder. Yeah, and it's probably not the most obvious thing, but the idea that single player is dying is obviously bollocks. I think it did really kind of take hold for a little bit. And if you look at what EA did with Star Wars for a while, they didn't want to do a game like Jedi Fallen Order for a while, and then they did Jedi Fallen Order, and turns out actually this paid off, and now there's going to be more Jedi Fallen Order and stuff like that. So I think it was just a bit of a wobble for a while, where there was some perceived wisdom that multiplayer was the future, and it will be the future, but it's not the only future.
It's interesting because Microsoft, which, you know, this gen, or the last gen I should say, hasn't really had an answer to Sony's first party output. Like Phil Spencer, the boss of Xbox, has been talking about believing in single player and, you know, wanting to get back to that. And who does he buy? Bethesda, maker of like the single player games, right? Like Skyrim, Fallout, Starfield will be. Like if he wants to, you know, if he's looking at Sony doing amazing first party stuff with single player, well, he's just bought like 1 million hours of single player content, right, for Xbox. So you can see that Xbox, I think, is like, yeah, single player is is a big deal, and we need to get back to that.
Which is really interesting because most of their internal studios, if, as you say, over the past few years, there's not been a lot of single player content there. I get called an Xbox fanboy quite a bit because I have an Xbox. But I hold my hand up and I say that very few of Microsoft's own exclusives are interesting to me, because apart from Fortnite, I really don't play multiplayer games. You look at Grounded, Sea of Thieves, Everwild is probably going to be multiplayer. Halo, Gears of War, Forza, all of these big franchises and emerging franchises from Microsoft are all geared around playing socially, playing with others.
You know what it is, right? So Lionhead was making Fable Legends, the multiplayer Fable game that they didn't really want to make. And because at the time it was all multiplayer, you know, everything had to be multiplayer, you know, social engagement, all of this stuff. And they were like, oh God, really? Microsoft canned it, shut down the studio, and then now they've got Playground making what I'm sure will be like a focused Fable game in the sort of Witcher style. And it's kind of like they've had to go through this awful process just to realize this is what they need to do. And you know, I think this Fable is going to be a big deal. It's going to be a really big deal, and hopefully it'll be really good. Very briefly, going through some of the other points that they make in this Sony document that I want to run by you. Takes a lot of time to scan through long help videos when stuck. Emma, as someone who's never got stuck in a video game before, I suppose you can't relate to that one.
Yeah, I don't know. If I'm stuck, we've said this before, but if I'm stuck, I normally go for like a written guide. I've been having that a little bit with Valhalla again, where there have been bits where I've been like, okay, I literally do not understand this. I have actually had to use videos a little bit more for that, because I need an idea of the space and like how to get around things or what's going on. Yeah, I guess I could see that a bit.
I mean, this feedback they've got from what players said with their problems with single player games, you can see that bit of feedback will have influenced them putting guide videos in the, actually baked into the console itself. You can see where that sort of idea has come from, this feedback. One of the other points, how to engage socially without risk of spoilers. Tom, as the spoiler king, I suppose that is something you don't have to worry about, because you don't have things spoiled for you. You spoil things for others.
I don't know where this nickname of mine came from.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Tom spoils everything for everyone. That's basically what this is about.
Is this because one time I spoiled ER for someone in the office, a series that aired originally 20 years ago, and I happened to mention a character that died. And
they were devastated. That person was devastated.
That person then said to me, "This is my first time watching this show," and I was just like, "This show first aired 20 years ago. That's on you, man." But
that's not the first time we spoiled. That's not the only time we spoiled something. But yeah, you could, again, they've got spoiler protection in their videos, right, for help, in the PS5. So you can see that they've again listened to that feedback and tried to work out how to help people when they're stuck without spoiling stuff for them.
I think you also get if you want to try and send a friend a video message that's in a place where if you've gone further ahead in your game and you're trying to send a video from that bit to someone else, I think they get a warning about it that it might contain spoilers, if I remember correctly. So that's another thing they've done.
It's cool. And finally,
just take a picture on your phone, send it through WhatsApp. Just get them that way.
Oh, that's a good tip. Good tip from the Spoiler King. And then lastly, forgot what I was doing in this game last time. Hard to get back in. I can definitely relate to that. When I've had to take a break of even a few days, when I turn it back on, I'm like, oh God, I have no idea what I'm doing. Look at my inventory and no. And I sometimes get put off. I don't know, Emma, if that's something you get.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's worse when you're kind of in the middle of a complicated story for these single player games that goes on for hours and hours and hours, and you leave it for a few weeks and you come back and you're like, I have no idea what's going on or who these people are. I think probably the easiest way around that is for the game to just keep a log of what you've done and kind of have a way for you to just go and scan and be like, oh yeah, no, I did this. This is what I'm doing next. But yeah, for sure, there have been times where I've just been completely disoriented, and I've just been like, you know what, I'm not going to get back into it because I don't know what's going on anymore.
Do you think, Emma, that actually Valhalla is a really smartly written game that kind of addresses that because of all the different individual small narrative arcs that you sort of take one by one?
In a way, but also the characters come back at the end of the game, and I'm like, "Who are you again?" And then I'm like, "Oh wait, okay, yeah, no, you're from like 30
Check
hours
your codex.
ago." Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
No,
I mean,
can do
Tom
that.
copies like a little kid copying something from a textbook. Tom copies all of the lore out as it comes up on
Making
the
notes.
screen. Yeah,
Yeah.
so he can never forget. Yeah, so I think this is really interesting because you can see their thought process, and it really directly relates to what we're getting with the PS5. I think my feeling is like, is this actually going to really meaningfully change the way we play games long term? Like, the console's only been out a few weeks, and it was a nice thing for Spider-Man, but essentially Spider-Man was still the kind of game that the previous Spider-Man was, and didn't really change the way I'm playing it. I'm playing Call of Duty in exactly the same way I do normally. It's just loads faster. Even like the next gen version of FIFA, like is I'm playing it in the same way. So it'll be interesting to see if this is just like this weird thing that Sony has on their console, which they tend to have sometimes, that third parties don't really make use of, but so first parties have to, or if it's really going to change the game. Tom, quick prediction: gimmick or game changer?
Gimmick. It's my Xbox fanboy answer.
Of course, you were going to say that, you Xbot. Emma, gimmick or game changer?
I also think it's a gimmick. I think
Oh
it's
my
a lot of
God.
extra work for third party. So I'm a PC
And
gamer.
you're well, I mean, you're playing Assassins on Xbox. So.
PC mainly though.
I mean, I'm playing on PS5, and I'm not fussed, so I'm probably more on what you guys are thinking. Anyway, that was really good. Thank you very much for your time, guys. Really appreciate it. Emma, if people want to check your latest Assassin's Creed Valhalla adventures on Twitter, where should they go?
At GoneEFK.
And Tom, for hot spoilers on Twitter, who shouldn't they follow?
Please don't follow at Tom Phillips EG.
And I'm at WYP100. Thanks very much, guys. Bye.